There is an easy way to live life, and there is a hard way to live life. My name's David Woodall with the Emsdale Pastoral Charge in the United Church of Canada. There's an easy way to live life, and there's a hard way to live life. Jesus put it this way: Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Life is composed of a series of choices and experiences. Usually there's an easy way to accomplish a particular task, and there's a hard way to achieve the same end. I sometimes wonder if the addictions, burnout, nervous breakdowns are not only because of the sheer weight of life, but because there is this sense that life might overwhelm us. And so we feel we have to fight things that maybe cannot actually be fought. Sometimes, as a little plaque we have in our home says, it is what it is. Inevitably, though, we will from time to time fight the job, fight the experience, fight the assignment, and even fight those around us. There was a group of friends who went on an invigorating hike. They had heard that the view from a particular landmark in the mountains was breathtaking. They gathered at the foot of the mountain and began to climb. For 2 hours they climbed through the underbrush, sticker bushes, and rotted stumps to get to the top. We saw 3 snakes and 1 deer, said one of them. When I got to the landmark, I was so hungry I didn't know if I still had the energy to stand up. I was sweating profusely from the heat, aching from the scratches, and suffering from the bruised knee incurred while running from the snakes. When we got to the landmark, there was an elderly woman standing there calmly eating an apple and taking pictures. We looked at each other. How on earth did that old woman get up there without having a heart attack? I asked her, how did you get up here? She smiled and said, oh, I drove up that nice road over there. And then she pointed down the opposite side of the mountain, and sure enough, there was a nicely paved road right to the top. We all squeezed into her car and rode back down in 10 minutes. We had fought for 2 hours to get somewhere that we could have driven in 10 minutes. Come to me, all you who labor and are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I'll give you rest. There is an easy way to live life, and there's a hard way to live life. Sometimes we just take shortcuts, and we try to make things as easy as we can for ourselves. And that's great. Most of us have enough going on in life that if we can simplify things, we should. But we also know that not all shortcuts are worth taking, and sometimes they can be downright dangerous. Think about that condo building in Miami that collapsed because the builders took shortcuts and used poor products and approaches. Some students used to pay others to write essays for their assignments. Now they're using Chat GPT, a form of artificial intelligence that does the hard research. Today, the concern with that is the loss of individual, creative, and critical thinking. There was that recent scandal too, where the parents falsified information and paid bribes for some of their children so that they would be accepted by the right college. Talk about not trusting your kids. Now, I can't condemn people for taking shortcuts. I am guilty of poorly considered shortcuts myself. I remember an English course I took that included a large number of plays by Shakespeare. I could never get into reading Shakespeare. Did you know that you can write passable essays on Shakespeare simply by reading the convenient summaries at the beginning of each play and not ever needing to actually read the play itself? I didn't get the best of marks, but I passed. This is a minor shortcut. I've taken major ones as well, but I'm not going to tell you about those. The point is that there are always shortcuts that you and I can take in order to achieve something. Oftentimes these shortcuts are minor, but sometimes they're not. And that failed shortcut can tear us apart. I think that was part of what Jesus was trying to say, is that when we can be comfortable with who we are, surrender our burdens, not needing to take shortcuts in life in order to feel good about life, and instead focusing on the something more that was just at the heart of Jesus' teachings, that we'll find that the ways of God, which are really the ways of life, the ways of God and life are light and easy, and they're full of life. Some of us spend a lifetime trying to figure out who we are. What's the right way to live? What should I do? What do others think about me? Will I get ahead? Should I even try? We can make life so hard for ourselves. Why is it that there are times when I feel like I'm fighting life rather than enjoying it? Is that the way life's supposed to be? We have to fight and struggle through? This idea often runs in people's families or it runs amongst groups of people. My grandfather couldn't do it. My parents couldn't do it. My sister and brother couldn't do it. I can't do it. Well, you think it? Then I think it. You do it? I do it. Norman Vincent Peale, do you remember him? Used to say nothing runs in the family except a wrong attitude. She was getting a divorce. She should have gotten a divorce. It was a dying relationship in which she was being thoroughly abused. But her father had had a heart attack, so she couldn't talk to her father. He wouldn't understand. Besides, they never really communicated. He was not a communicative person. Her father hadn't talked to his father. Her grandfather didn't know how to communicate with his father. You see, it ran in the family. She thought that the horrible shame of being the only person in 3 generations to fail at marriage, that fact would be an unbearable impediment to any communications. Finally, she said, nothing has to run in the family. So she timidly drove the long hours to talk with her father. But through the sharing of her pain, her father revealed his unfulfilled ambition to be a math teacher and his pride in having such a successful daughter. She wrote after, I felt so good after that. I couldn't wait to talk to him again. But I never did. He died 2 months later. But I am grateful I got to know him better. This woman was not a timid little person struggling for communication skills. She was the anchor person for a television news studio in one of the largest television markets in the world. She came into the living room of 1 million people and communicated with them about life and news. But it is possible to have all the know-how and smoothness in one aspect of your life and totally fight it in another dimension. How many of us have struggled and fought for the wrong dream? We might have made it, but was the burden really worth it? We all want to be successful in life, and particularly in our early years. Then gradually we discover that to be satisfied and happy takes the place of success. Take my yoke upon you, which really means learn about life. We battle for our version of the dream home, the dream family, the dream church, the dream job, the dream life. And the most common experience in that battle, of course, is the feeling that we don't have it. That's why we have to fight for it. And in the course of the fight, it seems as if we are the only ones who haven't made it. Just look around you at what everyone else has. I haven't made it. That's quite a burden to carry. Sometimes we pass that burden on to other people. We try to make our children into something they're not. Let's bribe the college so my kids will be admitted. What a nasty thing to do to your kids. Or we try to make our spouse into something they're not. Or we try to make our town, our friends, our job, our church, our values, even ourselves into something we're not. Time and again, Jesus sees people as they really are, carrying heavy burdens, and he says, I'm gentle and I'm humble, and you can find rest for your soul. One day, Peter and John were going up to the temple. It was in the evening after the sun had gone down. It was night. On the way, they saw a man with crippled legs sitting by the beautiful gate. He was carted there each morning by his parents, or perhaps by his friends, and placed in the same place to beg for money. The poor man had struggled with life for 40 years. Then along came these happy, healthy young men. So the crippled man held out his hand, pleading, "Money, money! Please give me some money." Well, Peter and John stopped in their tracks and looked at him. Finally, Peter spoke, "I have no silver or gold, but what I have I give to you. In the name of Jesus of Nazareth, stand up and walk." How many times had the man heard some version of that? Obviously, if he could walk, he would be walking. We think he would have heard this with a sense of joy. I suspect it just sounded condescending. "Why don't you just get up and walk?" Then Peter said, "Look at us." And he fixed his attention on them, expecting to receive something from them. Peter said, "I have no silver or gold. What I have I give to you." "Look at us" was the most important thing Peter said that day. Look at us, because we're looking at you. Life had beaten this man. He was just surviving. No one wants to beg for help, even though it might have run in the family. There is no refugee that wants to beg for a home. There is no person racked with hunger who wants to beg for food. There's no prisoner released from jail who wants to beg for a second chance. Whatever the great dream of life this man might once have had, he certainly didn't have it. But when Peter said, "Look at us," this man found someone who looked past his crippled legs, someone who could actually see him. But did he get up and walk and jump? It doesn't really matter. I don't know, maybe not. But once he knew he was actually seen as the person he was, not the crippled mannequin on the side of the road, the burden changed. The yoke he was carrying no longer seemed so heavy. Silver and gold have we none, but we do have something else. And that something else is what we will give you. Jesus saw the crowds and the people and all the troubles and burdens of their life. He actually saw them. And the Bible tells us this time and again, in the same way that God actually sees us. God sees more in this world than hatred and bigotry and failure and disease and hunger and struggle. God sees you and I as we really are. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, not to condemn the world. Instead, he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." Yeah, there is an easy way to live life and there's a hard way to live life. Hope you figure it out. God bless you. Amen.